Okay, welcome to Briterion Bollection, episode 3, I think. Um, we we're taking a little break from the Rush Hour trilogy to segue to other things, and I thought I'd invite my friend and coworker Chris to the show. Say hi, Chris.
Hi, everybody.
And we figured, we talk shit about movies a lot, so why not record it and try to monetize it? um, and I figured, we wanted to stick to the Black History Month theme, so I decided to invite the whitest guy I knew to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for that accolade.
Yeah, yeah. No, but I asked you, like, okay, what movies could we do to stick to the theme? Um, and you had some pretty good suggestions. uh, and we decided to settle on. You mentioned Blade, and I was like, that's great. And I was like, I really like Blade 2, especially. So we're skipping part 1 and going straight to part 2 because it's the best of the trilogy. And I don't want to get bogged down doing all these trilogies. I mean, they're pretty draining. So it's like, there's too many damn trilogies. If I do a trilogy, I'm just gonna like when I do Mighty Ducks, I'm only gonna do Mighty Ducks 2. I'm not gonna do Mighty Ducks 1.
Please don't do the Mighty Ducks trilogy.
Mighty Ducks 2 is the shit, Chris.
Good
Um,
series. Good series.
okay. So we decided Blade 2. Um, to at least there's an African American star in Wesley Snipes, and the great director Guillermo del Toro. So
Mm-hmm.
why not, right? So
Yes.
so with Blade 2, I remember, I guess it came out in like March 2002, so I would have been a senior in high school, and it was like a few months after 9/11. Um, I think my older brother was a big Blade fan, so he loved Blade 1. And when he saw Blade 2, he's like, oh, you gotta see Blade 2. Um, but I don't think I saw it in the theater because I was kind of more concerned about like terrorists trying to kill us at that time. Um, this is just a few months after 9/11, so I was thinking like, am I gonna get drafted or something like that? That was kind of what was on my mind at the time. I wasn't thinking about African American half vampire movies, you know. Did you see this in the theaters or no?
I think I saw it on, went to old Blockbuster and walked through the aisles and picked out a
Hollywood
movie.
Video, maybe? No.
Yeah, like after a while. Um,
Yeah,
but I
you
wasn't.
saw. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I don't know. You
You
know.
you caught it on video. You caught it,
Yep.
like, needless to say.
Yes.
So, yeah, but I think it's the best of the trilogy, honestly. The only one I ended up seeing in theaters was Blade 3, and that was the worst one I could see in the theaters. It was horrible.
Of course, with trilogies usually.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, Ninja Turtles 3 is horrible. Back to the Future 3 is horrible. A lot of people don't like Rush Hour 3. It's like people probably consider it the worst of the trilogy, but I love it personally. But
Mhm.
I guess that's just me being a weirdo. Um, as
Me.
usual. Right. Yeah, but Guillermo del Toro, I think he killed it. So we can get into the movie. So rewatching the movie, we see the New Line logo pop up in blood red. I love that. So we mentioned New Line on Rush Hour, so they're responsible for some pretty good trilogies.
Hmm.
New
Yeah.
Line Cinema.
Get
Um,
right to it with the blood on the first
yeah, yeah,
frame.
exactly. Yeah, the logo is bloody. That's a nice foreshadowing
Hmm.
of the movie. So yeah, and then the guy, there's a kind of a coda where we see a guy, and he's it's in the beginning, and he's dressed like he's in Assassin's Creed or something, or he looks kind of like Nicholas Holt in Mad Max Fury Road.
I don't know who picked that costume. It's terrible. He looks like a hobo trying to catch a train. So, like,
Yeah,
I
he
don't.
looks like Luigi Mangina, the guy who killed the CEO guy. He just has the hoodie, and I
Not
guess
not
he.
as well dressed, I don't think either.
Okay, maybe not. But
But I guess
yeah,
it adds to the mystique of who is this person and why are they being so, I don't know, mysterious,
elusive. Yeah,
like incognito.
yeah, exactly. So we see Assassin's Creed guy. Um, he does some kind of fighting. Some yeah, he just kind of looks vampiric, and the CGI is off the chain in this. It's pretty good. It's it's a lot better than Mummy 2, you know, where The Rock looked like a Tekken character. He looked like a Virtua Fighter character. He looked horrible. Um,
Yeah,
and yeah, it was horrible. So the CGI, well, Del Toro, he started as a makeup effects guy, so that's like near and dear to his heart, I would say.
hmm
Um, the whole makeup effects thing, it's kind of his thing. Um, and so we see that coda, I mean, the beginning where this Assassin's Creed guy is just kind of jumping around, killing people, and I love the Euro trashiness of it, and he gets like um, captured by these like kind of Nazi-ish looking people. I like the allusion to the Nazis; it's pretty cool. Um, and around this time, the style is very like Matrixy. So you see tons of people in like black leather trench coats in this, and all kinds of stuff like that. And the Assassin's Creed guy gets like strapped down with like a Nazi nurse and this other Nazi doctor guy, and he has these like syringe fingers. It almost kind of looked like an homage to Freddy, kind of, right? A little Freddy Krueger, New Line homage there. And as soon as that guy's gonna like stab him with the syringes, the Assassin's Creed guy starts like doing this evil laugh, like ha 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 ha, like I've tricked you. I'm really a vampire, and then we see him kind of suck into them, and then it kind of cuts to the opening credits and like the cheesy kind of Matrix Euro trash electronica music intro, and then we see like um, Blade's backstory, basically. Um, in case you forgot, it's a nice little reminder of the first movie, his little origins, and we see his half vampire, half human mythos. Like we've seen this half vampire, half human mythos before.
yeah.
For me, the best example of this really is Vampire Hunter D, which is a Japanese anime manga. They've done a couple movies, and I love those movies. Have you ever seen those?
Not too familiar with them. I mean, I've seen it maybe a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah, Vampire Hunter D. Like ideally, I would I would be the director of a live action version of this. Maybe a lot, maybe like 10, 20 years ago, you could have casted like Johnny Depp in this role where he's just kind of this long-haired gothic dude, and so the whole thing is he's what they call a damn peel, quote unquote. He's half vampire, half human, and it's really the same sort of Blade storyline, but um, Vampire Hunter D's story is that he's in like a dystopian future, even though it looks like the 1800s or something, 1700s, but he's like in this dystopian future, and this count kind of rules the whole land where he lives, and he's like a vampire hunter killer for hire, basically. It's really cool. If you've never seen it, you should check it out. I'll lend you the DVD or VHS someday, Chris.
Perfect. Maybe just
Yeah.
on 8 track or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, the original is kind of old. It probably came out like 86 or 87. But they
Mhm.
did a sequel in 2000 called Bloodlust, Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. And that one it's more updated if you can't stand the old, 80s, animation. The 2000 one is more updated. But yeah, they're both great. And Blade, I feel like, is also in that same sort of like. Can you think of any other stories like that where it's like half human, half vampire?
I not off the top of my head, no. But it's he's super cool because he's got all the benefits, right? He's got all the powers of the vampires without any. He says without any of the downsides, but he's still taking that like serum, so he doesn't have his thirst for blood. But he doesn't. He's not affected by the light and by silver and crosses and any of the stuff that would normally affect any vampires. Not in this film. They get away from that like biblical stuff, which is kind of hokey anyway. Like holy
Yeah.
water and um, crosses and things like that. But um, yeah, it's super cool. Superhero kind of with all these abilities and powers.
Right. And so part of why we chose to do this movie is because you're a comic book guy,
Hmm.
especially 80s, 90s, right? That was kind of my era too, even though I'm younger than you, a lot younger.
Not that much younger.
The 90s was, I was a kid and I was really into the comics at that time. Like, what was the first time you heard of Blade? Was it in one of the comics?
I think he might have been like in a Spider-Man, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure he was in one of the mainstream ones, and I was just like, who is this guy? And I
Right.
didn't really feel him at the time. Like they didn't draw him out as much as they could have.
Yeah, they could have done a lot more with him, and I think the movie was kind of a coming out party, the first one. Anyway, it was a big hit. People weren't kind of expecting that. Um, and the guy Avi Arad, he was like the Marvel exec at that time. Maybe he still is, but he's like some Israeli mafia guy or something like that. And he he owned Marvel at that time, and he was part of like the X-Men, all those cartoons in the '90s, and he was instrumental in making Blade, and he wanted that to be like the first real Marvel movie because he was like, oh, like he's like, we need a black character. We need a black. Like he will be like, if we have a black in hip hop, like it'll be a success or whatever. And I guess he was right because
Yeah.
it did do pretty well, surprisingly. And Wesley Snipes had a really good run in the '90s, and this was kind of almost the end of that. I mean, Blade 2, I would say, is kind of the end of that, and then he has tax problems after that, and that just derailed his career. It was all you can blame Uncle Sam for the end of Wesley Snipes' run that he had. um, so yeah, we see now, and then we finally see Blade in the movie, and after the origin, we see him fighting like vampire dudes on motorcycles, and it's pretty good fight scene, honestly.
Oh yeah.
Um, he's kicking a lot of ass, and I think Guillermo really wanted to show off his action side because I at the time I wasn't that familiar with Guillermo. I saw Mimic, I saw that in the theater, and it was like okay, it wasn't as great as I would hoped, and I think he'd probably say the same thing. It was, I love Mira Sorvino, but with just a lot of disgusting bugs everywhere and stuff. It was like, I don't know. Did you see Mimic back in the day?
Yeah, it wasn't doing it for me.
Yeah, it wasn't that
Not
great.
great.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, the guy from Mimic is doing this movie. It's kind of weird, but I mean, he hit it out of the park. And then
Mhm.
after that, then we found out how great Guillermo was. I know you're a big Strain fan, right?
Oh yeah, it was a great series. Yeah, and
And
changes the vampire mythos that we know pretty much as far as how they
yeah,
feed and things like that with the
right.
proboscis and the face splitting open and it's just horrifying.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah,
you
exactly.
wouldn't want to experience that.
So we see that first fight scene, and he's kicking a lot of ass.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a pretty good fight scene. A lot of motorcycle action. I think Guillermo really wanted to show off his action chops. I think he's a fan of these like Japanese, uh, Chinese movies, and I think he was just trying to show off that he has the action chops. Um, and So he kicks some ass, and then he lets the cheesy mullet fat guy go for whatever reason. I guess he just wants to. We don't know at first. He just wants to send him a message or something like that.
Didn't have five
Um,
seconds to kill him. He's like, just go away.
Yeah,
I'll get to you in a little bit.
yeah. He
Little
was
later.
like, yeah, he wanted to play with his food a little bit. Um, yeah, so he let him live momentarily for the moment. Um, and then he goes into this like lab and he sees Chris Christopherson in suspended animation. And his character is Whistler, which I don't know. Was he in the comic? Do you remember a Whistler guy? Um, yeah, maybe I just don't know the comic well enough, but it made me want. It's like why Whistler? Because it's like you know Whistler's mom, like like named him after the painter guy or whatever.
Sounds like a
Um,
basset hound.
yeah, yeah, it was a weird name. But yeah, but we see him in that like that jar. Like it's like when you see Wolverine, like when Wolverine became Weapon X. He's like floating in this jar. I mean, can you really do that? Does that really exist, or is that just in comic books or whatever?
Uh, Probably just comic books, you know.
Because I mean, they use it often in comic books and comic book movies. Like you see the guy just floating there in some green liquid or something, and but he's like alive, like he's not dead, like he's in a coma or something. Um, yeah, I don't know how that works, but I guess it's just a comic book thing. And then we see the guy Norman Reedus and his character. Forgot what his character's name is. But he's a Blade's assistant or whatever. He's
Mhm.
like his guy in the van, like kind of like Tom Arnold in True Lies, kind of. He's like he does reconnaissance and stuff like that. He never fights. He's just in the van or he's in the chair, kind of like the kid from Spider-Man: Homecoming. He's his friend. He's like, I'm the guy in the chair, yay! Like I can I can look up stuff on computers and cameras and stuff like that.
Blade was
So
desperate for someone to fill Chris Christopherson's shoes, and he came up with this putsy guy who can't fight, he can't do anything. He's just, I guess he's really good with tech. So
yeah, he's like his geek squad, basically his one man geek squad. Um, and that actor Norman Reedus, I guess this is post Boondock Saints, but pre Walking Dead, and whatever the hell else he did. I know he got I guess he's married or he's with Diane Kruger, the German actress um, from Inglourious Bastards. She's pretty good. Um, but yeah, I hated Boondock Saints. FYI, I hated that movie. Did you like that movie?
yeah, that was pretty cool.
That's
And
cheesy.
oh, shoot 'em up films are always great.
Yeah, but there wasn't even that much action. It was like you should watch the documentary on the dude who made that, who directed that, because that ended up being his only movie or whatever. I think he got blacklisted kind of after that, but not for Me Too stuff. Even though he probably did do some Me Too stuff, but he's just not famous enough that people don't care. Um, but it's a pretty good documentary because you see him somehow that became a hot script. It's called Overnight, the documentary, and that became a hot script. And then he got dudes out of the yin yang. Like every dude in Hollywood wanted to be in Boondock Saints. I'm like, really? Like, script is shit. Like, but if you watch the documentary, you see like Sean Penn was hanging out, like, because he had a bar in L.A. or something.
Mhm.
So his goals were like to be a country singer or something like that, uh, and or director. Basically, he wanted to be like Tarantino if Tarantino could play like Garth Brooks type of music. You know what I'm saying? So he was kind of like becoming like a rock star, quote unquote, the guy. And yeah, all these guys wanted to be in that movie, but I was like, why? This script is horrible. Like, why the hell does Jeff Goldblum want to be in this? I digress. Norman Reedus, and then he asks Whistler. They take Whistler out of the suspended animation, huge like jar basically that he's in,
Mhm.
and he asks him, "How do you feel?" And he's like hammer shit, which I thought,
Great line.
yeah, pretty good
Great
line.
dialogue.
Yeah, exactly. But then he mentions hammer. I'm like, Was that Thor's hammer? Did Thor hammer some piece of shit? Um,
What did they do to him when he was in there? That's what I want to know.
I don't think we want to know, Chris.
I don't think he wants to remember.
Yeah, he's like just Men in Black me, Men in Black that from my memory, you
Yeah.
know. Anyways, so I feel like going through the movie, I feel like the soundtrack should have had some tattoo in it. That probably could have made the movie even better. Um, could have fit the sound for sure.
Mhm.
Definitely that era.
Yeah.
Maybe they should have even had a cameo from Tattoo. That probably would have been good.
In the club.
Um, yeah, could have
Hmm.
been they could have been the Russian lesbians making out in the corner.
They already had plenty of that in there, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's never enough Russian lesbianism. Um, anyways, yeah, but I felt like that was missing from the soundtrack. And then so while they're kind of having this coming home party for Whistler, these ninjas fall out of the sky like in these little like wires, like Tom Cruise Mission Impossible style. You see these ninjas sliding down, um, and you're like, okay, what the hell's going on? But then Blade can see that. He knows what's up. He turns on his like solar light panels or whatever. Like I guess that's a thing. Like because I think even in Vampire Hunter D, he has something like that. He has like some solar light panels that like go up, and if there's any vampires around, they all just explode or whatever. This better be related to Blade. Um, maybe turn your thing off.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like have you seen that before in other movies where there's like a solar light panel that kills?
Um, yeah, I mean I've seen that a lot. Didn't they use that in the your one of your favorite films, like
No, it wasn't in.
Prince?
No, it wasn't in From
No,
Dusk Till Dawn. No, because they weren't expecting any vampires. They're like the vampires ambush them. So why
like
would
a
they have?
flashlight or something.
I mean that's not gonna work. They need to have like some solar thing because it's sunlight that fucks them up. But I'm glad you mentioned From Dusk Till Dawn because I do see a lot of parallels and something that Quentin said on when they were making From Dusk Till Dawn is he he loves when vampire movies especially like they take something like every vampire movie should contribute something to the mythos and steal something from the mythos too
Mhm.
like in From Dusk Till Dawn, Quentin was saying like, oh, like what we did in this movie is that we made the vampires like their bodies turn mushier, like their bodies are like more fragile than humans. So like that's part of what makes them kind of easier to kill, I guess. So that's something that they contributed to the vampire mythos. And then like these light panels, these solar light panels, that's something I'm sure in newer movies, vampire movies that I haven't seen, I'm sure they use that going forward. I mean, I could only really think of Vampire Hunter D and this that
Mhm.
really use that. But it's a pretty cool trick. And then anyways, the ninjas come in and they fight, and you see this like hot ninja chick kicking Blade's ass, and then Chris Christopherson, he gets his ass kicked in like a second. Like you see him with his big ass gun, and then the other ninja guy, like when the ninja guy runs up to him, Chris Christopherson's like a statue. Like he's not moving at all, and the guy just like knocks him down, and he just falls over.
He just got out of
Um,
the tank. He's a little fatigued. You know,
yeah, I guess it doesn't help that he's
been
75
traumatized.
years old either. It doesn't help that he's pretty, he's pretty old. Um, shout to Chris Christopherson. He passed away last year. He was great. And this is one of his great roles as Whistler. Um, yeah, but the fight scene was not very believable. They knock him out in 2 seconds, and then Blade and Blade and Whistler are kind of like, okay, who the hell are you guys? The fighting kind of stops, and who the hell are you guys? And then they take off their masks, and the one guy, Assad, he looks like Omarion from B2K. Like I thought it was him for a second. I was like, Omarion? I didn't know he was in this, but it's not him. It's some guy like Danny Jones or something like that. And Nisa, the female, is played by Leonor Varela. Is her name? Chilean actress. And they say, okay, like we're just messengers. Like we're not like trying to fight you. but we just came in with swords, but don't, I know it looks bad, but yeah, we're just messengers, which is pretty good swordplay in that scene. I think that goes back to the Japanese influence on Del Toro. I remember, like in 2004 or something, one of my friends who is Japanese, he was telling me, oh, like, because he read in some magazine or something that Del Toro, he was like in Japan in Tokyo, going to every like comic book store. He was just like trying to find any manga he could read. So he's a fan of Japanese fighting and movies, and that's why he ended up doing Pacific Rim, because that's basically a Japanese, Godzilla robot movie.
Mm.
Which I love that movie. I hope to do Pacific Rim someday on here. Um, but yeah, it was a good fight scene. And so Blade is invited by this Vampire Nation Council. That's what they said they're called, where they meet the Overlord Eli Damaskinos. And he kind of, you see him, he kind of looks kind of Gary Oldman-ish from Bram Stoker, like the bald and the creepy, the Children of the Night, like type of thing that he was going for.
Looks like an evil Sith, like
Yeah,
face is all melting and.
yeah, yeah. Basically, good impression of a Sith, Chris.
Doesn't look
Um,
too healthy.
yeah, and so they kind of give him the rundown. So like, okay, the Assassin's Creed guy from the beginning, they're like, he's crazy because he feeds on humans and vampires. So they're like, okay, they're kind of, they tell Blade, hey, we need your help because, you're the vampire hunter. This guy's going crazy, feeding on humans and vampires. So we need your help. So he's kind of like, okay. And it's funny. I like how Assad, because I guess the people, the like that Assassin's Creed guy, the vampires he creates, Assad says they're like crack addicts or something like that. Like they're like really, crazy vampires than normal. Um, so it was cool to see like modern day Transylvania, Romania, Euro trash elements. I love that. It's just it was like that orgy scene or dance scene from Matrix Reloaded, but in a smaller form in the club. But yeah, so you saw like it cuts to a scene where we get to see that Assassin's Creed vampire guy, and he kills some guy, and he eats first. Like he has like some other underlings, like but the main guy eats first. He's like, and then he walks away, and then the other guys come up and like start feeding on him too. Like they get his sloppy seconds or whatever. Like is that how it works? He's the main man.
Boss, he's the man.
He's like,
Alpha. He's
he's
the
like,
creator, so
yeah. He's like, I'm good. You can have the rest. Like, basically, it's kind of funny. So then this Vampire Nation Council, they kind of show their motley crew that they put together. This is a ragtag motley crew.
the Blood
Um,
Squad.
yeah, you got Donnie Yen in an early role, like early Western role. He was already big in Hong Kong, and I guess that's why Guillermo casted him because he's a fan. So we
Mm,
see Donnie Yen. I guess he plays Snowman. Is that the character he plays? And
I think so.
uh, uh, Guillermo favorite Ron Perlman as Reinhardt, and I guess he's supposed to be racist or something. He kind of like alludes, says some kind of subtly racist shit. Um, and then there's another guy named Chupa, like Chupacabra, like I guess because of the suck, because Chupa means suck in Spanish. And then you got the one chick who looks like Run Lola Run. Um,
Yeah, she didn't fit in with the whole crowd. I don't.
no, I mean I thought it was kind of cool. It's kind of anime-ish. I think that's why
Think.
he threw her in. I mean, if anything, they should have casted Franca Potenta from Run Lola Run. That probably would have been good casting if they got her. Um, and like when I see this, it's like how I would have wanted a Ghost Rider movie. You know what I'm saying? Like if they really did Spirits of Vengeance, the movie. Like, I think it would have been cool if they did it like this, where you just have like tons of guys like trying to kick ass. I thought that would have been really cool. Um, so yeah, Perlman is a big favorite of Guillermo. He's in Pacific Rim. He's in I don't remember what else. He's in
Hell,
what? Oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah, Hellboy. Yeah. He
yeah.
plays the titular
Mhm.
Hellboy.
Did a great job.
Yeah, yeah. That's why they only made two with him, and then they're like, "We're no." I think the studio was just like, "No, like we've given you enough money on this. We're not gonna give you a third. Like we gave you one chance, wasn't that great? Gave you another chance. It was slightly better, but still not good enough."
The world wasn't ready for Hellboy at that time.
Yeah, I mean they've done it like the guy. So the guy from Stranger Things, they used him in the reboot that bombed, and then they just recently like did another one with like some random ass guy. I don't know. Did you see that? Like there was another reboot of it. Google it. But it looks even horrible. Like it looks even worse than these other ones. Um, so it's funny how Blade, he's a great detective for catching vampires. Um, he's like, oh, you want to catch a vampire? You got to catch the prey. So they're like, okay, well, where do these guys hang out or whatever? So he's asking where these vampires hang out around here, and the chick Nisa, she's okay, well, let's go to the House of Pain, which is, I guess, that's the club that they go to. And I was thinking they're gonna start playing Jump Around with
That would
that
have been
name.
good.
Yeah, electronica remix Jump Around. That would have been cool. um, but they have some badass vampire killing weapons when these guys start to strap up. you
Mm,
know
yeah.
It's pretty damn cool. It's awesome. Um, it's almost, I mean, part of it reminds me of Lost Boys, like when they kind of gear up. Like, I think every vampire movie kind of has that. Like the loading up on ammo scene. You see it in Lost Boys. You see it in From Dusk Till Dawn. And this is kind of continuing that. And kind of seeing this movie with having like a team of people. It also reminded me of Predator, actually, which
Mm,
I love that movie. You see this team of guys, and then also you see them kind of look like in like heat vision in some of the scenes, and that was like obviously how Predator sees the world.
yep.
That hammered home like the kind of Predator influence on the movie. Um, and then we hear this Mos Def Massive Attack song as they walk into the club. They're like strutting in. um, yeah, they go into the club and it's pretty cheesy. It's like a vampire night at the Roxbury. It's pretty damn cheesy. And then they walk by some bald chick and she's having like a chunk of her flesh cut out. Is that what's happening there?
I don't know, out of her back or something. Is that
Yeah,
what you're talking about?
yeah,
That was well,
yeah. I was like, what the hell's going on there? Like,
bar. I don't know.
yeah. I know some people are into that, but I don't think they bleed like that. They're into like piercing themselves, but that's just cutting meat out of you. Like, I don't know if that could be a trend. Um, and then it's funny because they're like kind of scouting the club, and then there's some tension between Reinhardt and Blade. Like, and that's another Predator thing with the red light. The scope gun. Like he had it on him, but then the dude is like, "Oh, watch out." He's like, "Look up," and Blade's pointing right at him, and he has the red dots on him. And that's another, very Predator thing. And it's just funny because he's like, "Gotcha," and he's just standing there, and it's just chicks dancing around him while he's just standing there with a big ass gun, and it's just like, what the hell? Like, no one has any questions on this. That there's a random black dude with a big ass gun, and you're just dancing around him. Um, okay, yeah. So Norman Reedus, his character is Scud, That's his name. And so yeah, he is like the Tom Arnold True Lies guy. Um, we see him in the van, and he's somehow he got Krispy Kreme donuts. I didn't even think that was in Europe at the time, so I don't know how he got that. And in the club, and then there's an all-out brawl. It's just like a total shootout. The club clears out. All the Russian lesbians leave, and unfortunately, yeah, they just shoot out the whole club, and all these bald guys in leather who look like Right Said Fred start coming out of nowhere. Um, I guess that's part of the rules of the movie. Like, I guess it's mandatory if you're a full on vampire, then you have to be bald, right? Like if you're half, you still have hair. Like Blade has hair, and the other chick, I guess, has hair. I mean, I guess were they vampire, like full on vampires? Like was the chick a full on vampire?
She was born a vampire. She was born into that. She didn't want to be there, but it happened that way. So
But she has hair. I guess that's what
yes,
separates.
she's full
'Cause-
blood.
okay, but I guess the other guys were like
Fine.
next level crack addict vampires. Yeah, but there was like so many bald dudes. Like I thought he was gonna be attacked by Moby, Billy Corgan, and Michael Stipes. A lot of
They were
bald
in
dudes.
the movie, so I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of bald dudes. That probably would have been scarier than the actual vampire. Um, but like we see them all kind of kick ass in that scene. Like they all get time to shine, you know. Then that Scottish guy, he gets fucked up. He got hella fucked up, and that's where we really see the vampire Assassin's Creed guy really use his mandibles. The mandibles come out. That's another Predator thing, like how Predator had the
Yeah.
mandibles. I see a real influence there. Yeah, it opens up and then like the little sucky thingies, like it's just disgusting. But I know Guillermo loves that, and I remember in the interview he was like, "Oh, you see him lick his brain," and he's like, "I love that." He's like, "I threw that in there just for fun." Like, yeah, Guillermo's pretty sick.
It's the subtle touches that matter.
Yeah,
Filmmaking.
yeah, he's a genius. Yeah, and so the vampire digs into. We see him dig into the Right Said Fred guy, and use the mandibles and the sharp tongue, and it's kind of like Alien meets Predator, like Predator mandibles, but the aliens come out stick thingy, um, and like it's weird. He like digs into his back. It's like really homoerotic. Like this vampire like digs into his back. Um, like I think this vampire wanted something with the Right Said Fred guy. But he's like, hey, I'm not gay, much less I'm not doing gay vampire sex. I'm with the Run Lola Run chick. And then I guess the Run Lola Run chick shoots that vampire off of him or whatever. They kill that vampire. But then you see like that guy, he got like bit like on his shoulder or something like that.
Mhm.
And that's another thing. So like in all these vampire movies, there's like always a guy who's like trying to hide it. Like he gets bit, but he's like trying to hide it. Like it's like a common theme I've kind of noticed there. Yeah, and it's like that because that happens in From Dusk Till Dawn too. There's a guy, the sex machine character. He gets bit, but he's like trying to hide it. Um, and yeah, there's a lot of parallels with From Dusk Till Dawn. The only thing this is missing is the pussy speech from Dusk Till Dawn. From Dusk Till Dawn. I mean, it would have been funny to have Cheech Marin outside that place and be like, "We got Romanian pussy, Transylvanian pussy." It would have been hilarious. Blade has a good fight in the church, and it's kind of cool to see these European churches. It reminds me of Brothers Bloom, the film by Ryan. What's his name? Ryan. Forgot his name. He's the guy who did. He did. What's that damn movie? He did Knives Out. And he did Looper. Forgot his name, but he also directed Brothers Bloom, which actually I think is his best film. If you haven't seen that, you should watch that. It has a lot of cool Eastern European locales. And I guess so. These crackhead vampires, they're immune to silver and garlic. I guess is the
Yeah,
mythos here.
next
So
level.
yeah, this is the next Dragon Ball. These are like Super Saiyan vampires, you know. Um, and then Scottish guy turns into a vampire, and it's pretty cool because you see Perlman, he like slices his brain open. That's like straight up anime Japanese. I love that. And then Blade, similar from Dusk Till Dawn, he shoots a hole in the church, and then sunlight breaks through and blows up the Scottish dude. Um, and then we cut back, we see the king Damaskinos. He's like eating Jello. It's like blood Jello. He's like eating this Jello. It's pretty disgusting.
Delicacy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then he like bathes in blood. He has like a bath of blood, literally. Um, but yeah, like when I see Nisa too, like she has like some gold thing around her, like some gold necklace type of thing, and she really looks a lot like the Count's daughter in Vampire Hunter D. I feel like he really kind of ripped that off. Um, and then they're I guess they're checking out one of the vampires they killed, and it's like a vampire autopsy scene. They open the mandibles, and it's pretty freaky looking. You know,
Yep.
it's almost female genitalia looking kind of. Like maybe he was trying to go for some Freudian vampire elements. Um, and they're kind of they're kind of need to do a last stand. So Blade's like, "We'll hunt them during the day," and they're like, "What? Are you crazy?" And he's like, "It's the only way." Um, so they that's kind of the last act is kind of the final showdown. They they're planning on raiding it the next day, and his line, he's like, "I don't expect everyone to come back tomorrow." So yeah, they plan on going into the sewers to hunt. So they do that, and they're like, "We should split up, like 3, 3, and 3." And Perlman and the Frosted Tips guy, I think that's Chupa. They like basically try to kill Christofferson. Um, they're like, "Okay, kill the old guy." And they're kind of like, "Hey, you killed our Scottish guy. We're gonna kill your old man guy." They're they're taking an eye for an eye, and then Run Lola Run chick sees her boyfriend, and he's a vampire now. And I think, did he kill Donnie Yen? Because I feel like I missed that. Like I didn't see that, and then I feel like he was kind of sucking on some dude who looked like Donnie Yen. And I was like, I guess Donnie Yen is dead. And she's kind of like, oh my god, like she's freaked out that her boyfriend's a vampire, but it's like I thought she would be struggling to kill him, but then she just like blows 50 rounds on him, like she doesn't give a shit. He's a vampire. Um, but then they have a nice little. She opens the sewer, and they both die together with the sunlight hitting them. It's a nice little Romeo and Juliet sort of thing. Vampires dying together. The Omarion guy, he gets eaten by a bunch of Moby looking dudes in the water. Blade sets up like a light bomb underwater. It's like a solar light bomb. It's pretty cool. So, and like that's his plan. Like when that detonates, they want to jump out because they don't want to get hit. But when they jump out, he like slices them all up. It's a pretty good plan, honestly. Um, Frosted Tips guy, he gets eaten by a shitload of vampires. When I see them shooting all these vampires, I'm like, this would be fun. Like, I don't know if they ever did. I don't know if they ever did a Blade game, but it would be cool to just shoot mad vampires. That'd be hella fun.
Yeah.
And I guess so. So the Assassin's Creed vampire guy, his name is Nomak, and he tells Whistler something, and he gives him a ring. Like he's kind of like whispering it, and he gives him a ring, and she's dying, Nisa, but he gives her some of his blood, right?
Mm-hmm. Right
You
from
thought,
his wrist.
yeah,
Bites it open and feeds her. Very romantic. Very Valentine's Day ish.
yeah, perfect for Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so this Damaskinos like security. They like tase Blade and Whistler basically, and Blade, Whistler, and Scud wake up in a blood chamber, uh, which is like Damaskinos' blood chamber. And the way he shows them like the vials, it's almost like Jurassic Park or something. Like these like gold balls of fetuses, that he kind of shows. And Nisa's like, "What the hell's that, Dad?" Um, and there's like a big reveal that Nomak is Damaskinos' son.
Mm.
I guess we didn't see that coming. Nice little twist. And then Scud is like, I was working with Damaskinos the whole time. Bastards. He fooled Blade that whole time. Blade took him off the streets, gave him a job, and he was just screwing him the whole time. It's pretty sad. These hoes ain't loyal, Chris. And then Blade is like, oh, like I already knew about you. I already knew you were trying to screw me, Scud. And the bomb works, and he explodes his head with it. The bomb that he set up for Reinhardt at the beginning when they had racial tension, and he
Right.
stuck.
Reinhardt was trying to be the tough guy, and so Blade put a bomb in the back of his skull, or like implanted it, and said, you mess with me, I'm gonna blow you up.
Yeah,
But then it turned out when he tried to detonate it, it didn't go off. So there was the big surprise that he was the
yeah,
traitor. And he said Blade knew, and so of
yeah,
course he blew up the guy, Cud, whatever his name is.
yeah. He he just so happened to be one step ahead of him. Blade is always one step ahead of you.
Awesome
Um,
special effects, just everywhere.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But then they detain Blade somehow. I guess he's just outnumbered, and they kind of put him on the autopsy table. And it's pretty sad. Damaskinos, he doesn't give a shit about his daughter at all. He doesn't care. He doesn't care if she dies. It's pretty sad. He's a real deadbeat vampire dad. Um, yeah, it's pretty sad. And then Nomak comes in and he's like, let me help you guys. And he does some damage. He starts kicking some ass. Like he hops on the Blade side. And Blade and Perlman fight. And it's a pretty good fight. And he slices Perlman in half. Just like, that's like straight up anime. Ichi the Killer esque.
No coming back from that.
No,
He's
yeah,
not
he
gonna get
just
back.
he splits him. You can see his bones and brains, come apart. It's very Ichi the Killer esque, which is like my favorite movie of all time, Japanese movie, which came out the year before, and I'm sure Del Toro saw that. And Nomak, he eats Nitsa a little bit, and so Blade and him fight. He throws Blade around, but Blade ends up persevering, and he gets Nomak on the ground. And he does like similar to Predator. He does like a self-destruct kind of thing. He like sets up something and he starts laughing. He's like, like, and they're like, shit, we gotta run. So yes, similar to the ending of the Predator when the Predator self detonates and he starts laughing and Arnold's running away like and then the explosions, really cool. Love that. Similar to that, yeah, they run out, and she's dying, so they're together and she tells Blade, "Hey, I want to die a vampire, and take me to see the sun." So Blade takes her, and as the sun is rising, we see her turn to ash. And it's kind of 30 Days of Night-ish, that movie came out later, but I think it stole a bit from that. And that's the end. It's like a bittersweet ending. Nisa turns to ash, and Blade is left to wander the earth. As the half vampire assassin. And then the coda, we see London and the guy from the beginning, the fat mullet guy, he goes into some strip thing. What are those called? Like those strip shows where you pay. Do they still have those anymore? I feel like those are only in like New York or bigger cities. You pay some coins and then the thing pops up. So he pays some coins to see some stripper, and then the thing pops up and Blade's there. He's like, "I told you I'd get you." And he just slices him right there, right?
Yep.
It's a funny little coda, and that's pretty much it. It ends there. We get to hear some cool electronic hip hop soundtrack from that time period, and that was Blade 2. Pretty cool movie. What were your thoughts on it?
Oh, I thought it was tight. There's all the action sequences and all the kills. It was just nonstop. It was a lot like John Wick. It was like he was a master. Nobody was gonna stop him. He's just vampires exploding left and right in different ways, which was super cool. The special effects were amazing. Yeah, it was a great film.
Yeah, and you liked a lot of the lines in it too, right?
Yeah, the dialogue was it was very cheesy. A lot of it was. I know you had a favorite line.
Yeah, what was it? I forgot what it was. What was your line?
You got it.
No, I don't have it in my notes. Something about Terry Cunt or something like that.
You're one cunt hair away from hillbilly heaven.
Hilarious.
That was his big threatening whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I think that was that the what's his name? Was that the Reinhardt character? I think said that.
Oh yeah, it was him or that Chupa guy, the Frosted Tips guy. Yeah. And let me mention that you have your master's in creative writing, so you know all about quality writing, and this fits this fits your barometer of quality writing, right?
It's the last thing you think you'd hear out of somebody who's trying to be tough, but it's like, okay.
Yeah, well,
Creative came up with
you got to have good lines in action movies. You have to have good one-liners, and that's just a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, thank you, Chris, for joining me today. We plan on doing a lot more films, right?
Sure.
Yeah, we'll see if we get another one soon. But if not, we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me, Chris.
Likewise.
Have a good night. See ya. Bye.